Hi, my name is Elsa. I'm an artist and writer based in Brighton.
Hi, my name is Emma Frankland, and I'm a theatre maker, an artist, and performer. I'd like to see a definition of public art that was about art made um, that is of use to the community where it's happening or where it's situated, rather than something that's imposing someone else's ideals. Something that comes from that place. I think my brain goes off in different directions in terms of thinking about this question, because part of my thought goes to static art, visual art, and big kind of spectacle pieces that are maybe going to last a long time. But then the other part of my brain goes to things that are more performative and more, maybe they're not going to last for 100 years, but they're going to have a deep impact with those people. And I think for me, success isn't about scale, it's about the quality of the engagement that people are having with that art.
Can you tell me a bit about voiceover, your work with Umbrellion?
Yeah, so I was approached by Brighton Digital Festival, who were looking for a local artist to partner on this project, and they specifically said they wanted to work with the trans community. And I think my initial response was, well, why? And what's in it for those participants? The project was about placing these radio devices in people's homes and recording their thoughts. And then in previous iterations of it, they'd worked with communities that were geographic. So they'd done it in a tower block, or they'd done it in like a small area in a town up in the north of England. So some of the things that had worked previously, like windows lighting up in a block of flats when someone's speaking, felt like, well, if we put a big light on the door of a trans person, it's going to light up. That's actually going to work against their safety potentially. So it was what I really loved about that project was how the concept, they were really willing to abandon their concept in favor of something that would actually serve the community that they wanted to work with. So what ended up happening was a lot more private, which perhaps runs counter to the idea of public art. How can it be public art if it's something that is kept aside? Then there would need to be some assurance of safety and who that was going to be for. So we ended up with two outcomes. One was a public outcome, and people knew they were speaking with that kind of filter of I'm speaking for someone who may be from outside the community. But we also had a second outcome that was just for people who identified as trans, questioning. And that felt really special to have a public art that was also really private.
We need to normalise well-being in the arts. And we've spoken in the past about access drivers and well-being riders and how we can facilitate that access needs and expose them, but also not make it obligatory for people to disclose that. How do you think it's best to kind of approach that?
I think it's essential that people recognise the power that they hold in any of these relationships, and that saying to an artist, especially an artist from a marginalised group, what do you need, might actually not be the best approach, because there's a lot of imbalance there. Maybe you hold the money and the artist needs to pay their rent, and that they are not trusting perhaps fully of what you want. So I think in the first instance, like there's so many resources out there already, and there's so many people that you could pay to help you work out what questions to ask, even before you're working with those people. I think like doing your work,
platforming that voice and budgeting for it as well.
Totally budgeting for it.
I think just thinking about the riders and how there's this idea that I'm really committed to, is like flow flexibility. So having this like oh no, it's totally fine. It's like that's absolutely like fine, when actually it's not, and it's really difficult to negotiate that imbalance, especially when money is involved, because it becomes like a transaction rather than an exchange.
I think, budgeting for it and maybe making it known that you are aware of these things and that you're working and what you're doing, because I always, like, as soon as I see that somebody has an awareness of some of this stuff, then that makes me relax immediately, because I think, okay, maybe I can speak some of my needs without that.
I think also it's in a similar way, someone with lived experience who you can like share that experience with, and but also understanding that not everyone who has a similar lived experience has the same needs. But I think in terms of like seeing people like yourself, seeing it to be it is really valuable, especially for young artists and young participants.
Is that what you would see the value of public art that really works with?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's really valuable to see someone that looks like you.
I think to get the authenticity of that's going to make, a real impact in that public art, that's going to have potential to completely change for the better the course of somebody's life or their self-esteem. But in order to make that an authentic piece of engagement, making sure that the artist that you've employed was able to feel really safe and really held, and therefore able to make the art that's going to have that effect.
And I think in terms of like Brighton and the city that we live in or live near or work in as well, like there's a lot to think about, and there's a lot of different communities, but also a lot of communities that aren't represented. It's a very white city, and there's a lot of communities, a lot of marginalised groups that aren't around. So it's like a duty to like, there's an obligation to like make sure those communities that are here and that aren't being represented are still like valuable and made accessible.
I really like what you said about how when that care is there, it benefits everyone. Like it isn't just about it isn't just about flowing in one direction. That putting in those extra steps of care at the start of a process, even before the commissions go out, will just makes everybody's lives better. And absolutely, there's an obligation in Brighton to change the face of what we normally see. I don't think anyone should be watching this and thinking like, oh no, we have to like do all this extra work. Like the rewards are going to be huge, and it's so important for Brighton and Hove that we live up to what other people's perception of us as a city is. And I think that we really have the opportunity to lead the way and set really good practice that other cities can follow.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think there's a really promising opportunity to advocate and employ really useful, productive means of support as a standard.
It would be nice to actually be what other people think we already are.
Yeah, definitely.